We've got some.
Hey, I'm Luis.
And I'm Luis.
And you're listening to the Content is Profit podcast.
We spent the last 4 years learning the strategies and techniques from some of the top marketers in the world on how to create content that turns into profit. And today, we're bringing them to you so you can take action immediately and start creating real content momentum.
If you'd like to learn more about how to turn your content into profit, go to contentisprofit.com. Oh, yeah. The power of networks is real. And I'm sure today's guest will attest to that. Oh, and yes, you heard that right. We have another 2v2 in our hands. And today's guests are like Batman and Robin, Captain America and Falcon, Rocket and Groot. You get the point. And in today's intro, we might not make them justice
because of their epicness.
So make sure you listen to the whole thing.
One of them spent 15 years as an actor filmmaker in New York. The other one spent 20 years confined within the walls of corporate America. Together, they are epic business partners that co-founded PodMax and host a few podcasts with a few hundred episodes. I mean, and a few is like an understatement.
Yeah.
Here. You could say they know a thing or two about podcasting, business, and building communities. The perfect mix.
They are incredible at allowing people to feel comfortable and come out of their shell. They have one of the best networking events we have ever experienced, which you should definitely attend. More on that soon. And besides being full-time heroes for the people in their networks, they are full-time heroes at home with their families.
That's so awesome. I'm so excited for this episode. Please welcome master community builders, podcasters, OGs, and the dynamic duo, Josh and Eric!
Wow.
Welcome, guys. Let's go.
Thank you, Luis and Luis.
Where's
It's
the paper
amazing.
wall that I'm going to jump through, man? That's what I feel like I need. I need the step and repeat paper wall with the fire, explosions. That was the closest you guys did an amazing job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That is a great idea. I think we should start sending like pre-podcast packages to our guests so they can put it in front of their screen. And
That's what I felt like, man. There was going to be trumpets and like drums. It was awesome.
I love the obvious element of fun that you guys have that I know we also like to bring to the table. Isn't that it's just sort of like the prerequisite, right? If you're not having this level of fun, you should really figure that out.
I know.
Absolutely.
Thank you for bringing that out. You know, part of why we do this is so we can actually have fun. We actually had this business where we're like screen print shirts, like the ones that we're wearing right now. We made them like with our own hands, you know, the squeegee thing, like, and we left that business because we did not enjoy the process. So we're like, when we're producing this show, we actually have to enjoy and have fun and have a blast. And he seems like, you know, just bringing amazing people like you guys just makes our job a little bit easy. So thank you for acknowledging that, guys. Welcome to the Content is Profit show. We are so honored to have you. We experienced one of your events. We'll, you know, talk a little bit about that in just a second. But first, I would like for you guys to kind of tell us, you know, who's Josh? Who's Eric? Like, how do you guys come together? And I know who's who. I don't know. So, and then how do you guys come together and created these amazing, you know, community? I guess. Like, what's up?
The playbook, man. Yeah, you want to give it started off, Josh?
Sure. So I guess we'll each give a little individual, and then it'll tie in perfectly with how we came together and how we got to this very union between the four of us. So I'm Josh, by the way, in case you're like, who's Josh? Who's Eric? Nice to meet you guys, Lewis and Lewis. Thanks for having us on. Today, I am the hidden entrepreneur, and that's simply because, long story short, I spent 40 years hiding. I showed up in every situation hiding everything that I was truly capable of achieving. All of my talent, my skill, and ability stayed inside and didn't come out. Why, you might ask? Get this, because I was so scared to rock the boat or ruffle feathers. I only wanted to desperately seek the approval. And I felt that if I came out with something so magnificent or valuable, that it might make you feel insecure and tap into your insecurities. And if I was the quote unquote threat, you might retaliate. And I didn't feel strong enough to stick up for myself. So I just avoided the whole thing altogether for decades.
Oh.
Cut to today, I'm the proud father, 2 adoring children, a 7-year-old daughter, a 5-year-old son. They quickly showed me early on in their young lives that, okay, I see what's happening here. I'm the one throwing the temper tantrums here. I'm the child in this circle, and I have the work to do. And at that moment, I made the choice and the decision to just grow up a little bit and make the changes that I needed to. And here I am. Now I get to appear on shows like this, and life is great.
Wow.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Sweet. Yeah. I mean, we took some notes here, but we want to let Eric kind of like,
Of course.
say he's part of the story and see what's up.
Yeah, first I just want to give you guys again kudos for what you're putting together here. I'm noticing all the little details. I hear the music in the background.
That's right.
I'm recognizing that it's probably the Roadcaster. That's the magic behind the mics.
That
and
is
all that.
magic.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
produced.
yeah, it's good stuff, man. And also the shout outs to Iron Man, and I'm guessing, is that Doctor Strange? I can only see a foot up there, but
No, we have
who's
the Captain
Cap?
America,
Is that
and then
Cap?
the Hulk. Yeah, and then the Hulk over there.
Oh, I love it, man. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I don't have all my superhero paraphernalia back there, but I've got it all, man. I gotta start sharing and start conversations.
I'm glad we nailed it with the superheroes. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh man,
that,
man.
that was like a random thought that came to me. You know, I guess it was the universe speaking to me, like, "Hey, say something with superheroes."
No joke.
Dude, I'm just embarrassed that Spider-Man's not repped up there. You gotta rep Spider-Man. Come on, man.
Yeah, wait.
There you go. All right. That's good enough. I'll take it.
There we go.
Good enough.
Yeah,
Good
it's
enough.
Luca's favorite toy. So when my baby comes to the office, we gotta hide it because he'll just grab it. So it's okay. Now he has a privilege here. We
Yes.
3v2 now. Here we go. Okay, we'll
Awesome,
just leave it there.
awesome.
3v2. I love it.
Yeah, I will. I'll tell my story in brief, and then I'll dovetail it into Josh and I, fusing brains and becoming one gigantic thing. So,
Oh, boy.
yeah, like I said, like you guys mentioned, I was with corporate America for over 20 years, and that was what I was taught. That was what we were told to do throughout life. Parents are telling us, go get a job, go to school, get your education, and then climb the corporate ladder so that I can brag about you, so that I can talk to you about my friends and the amazing things you do for me. It's all about the parents. So I realized at some point that I hit the proverbial glass ceiling. I climbed the ladder, and this was the most as I was going to ever make, because I was consistently the same salary for many years. And then I had the top title. I was the creative director at the number one pharmaceutical company in the world at the time. And I was like, where do I go from here? The number 2? They're always jockeying for position. I was offered a job for the number 2, and it was the same salary.
Just make it funny, like you go number 2, and then I'm like, okay, challenge accepted. Go number 1 again, and then number 2. And number 1 again.
Exactly. It was just an infinity loop that I just needed to jump out of. A little callback to the Avengers. So then I made a decision to make a change in my life, for not just for me, but for my family, because they were starting to sprout up. We were on our second, and I was like, I can't continue down this path and think that I'm going to build some sort of legacy for them, because I don't have a legacy. I have no savings and finance and all this stuff that I could pass along or investments. So I started to do research, and I came across this wonderful book called Rich Dad Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki. That was the purple pill. Not Neo, what's his name? Morpheus came to me with a purple pill, the third option, and said, take this book and get for your financial education. And I started to become a real estate investor. I said, forget creative. I'm not going back. I'm retired, and I'm going to do that. So that led me down this whole path. Eventually, that network was crying for creative. So I had to go back to it. So I built this agency called On Air Brands, which serviced the real estate investing community mostly, but we had clients in the tech sector and all sorts of other cool, fun things. And then that business morphed into a podcasting service and event. So then that's when I was really at an event to promote On-Air Brands, doing what really closely what you guys do, creating content for people. And then I was there for that sole purpose, met Josh there, who was interviewing me on his show. And then I said, hey, you know what? What if we get together with podcasts and come on my shows, come into my studio? And we started to build and create and saw the synergy and the chemistry. And then we're like, let's just build another company and we'll call it PodMax. And then everybody came. The floodgates came in. So it was amazing. All happened within a year.
Wow.
PodMax is 1 year old this month.
Yeah.
Congrats. There we go. Congrats. Yes. I will do this. There we go. Okay. Guys, I hear relationships, right? Like, and you know, you guys obviously work with content and business, and this is one of the things that we've noticed, you know, since we started publishing. We're at episode 89, crazy. Right, as well, in less than a year, right? But
we're trying to catch up to you guys.
I know. Oh, man, we're like,
here we go.
We're about to start producing 4 episodes that week. You know, I think the audience is like, dude, guys, stop. We have no time. Anyways, but what I hear is relationship. You know, you guys have been able to develop this amazing relationship through different platforms, either content related, either like business related, and then we're talking to people. And I think that has been one of the major benefits that we've seen on publishing, and I'm sure you guys do now, not only with your agency, but also with PodMax, which you guys act at that middle ground for people to meet from different industry. And it's just beautiful and wonderful to see.
Yeah, I mean, you know, often we hear podcasting is like the stage to bring others. And I feel with PodMax, you guys are the stage of the stage, which makes it like even more epic, right? But before diving into that, I have a few questions from stories, right? And first one, Josh, is like, where did that fear come from? I'm so curious because, for example, me personally, right? I spent 3 years right after I read The 4-Hour Workweek that I was telling Eric right here, that it was like the first book that I read that introduced me to entrepreneurship. And I knew I had to create content. I had to put myself out there, but the fear was stopping me, right? At the moment, it was my excuse was, it's not perfect. The content that I'm creating is not good enough. Later, I realized it was just fear. And one of the biggest benefits that putting myself in front of a camera and sharing my message has, like, one of the biggest benefits has been overcoming that fear. But I'm curious to know, where did that fear come from? You know, like, why and how other people what steps can they take to also get out of that fear?
Yeah, well, great question. And the good news, as you might know, is that even when you quote unquote overcome the fear, it's never about ridding your life of fear. Fear will always present itself, which some argue is a great thing, right? Because it's that it's that signpost to say, hey, this is a good step for you to take and improve. So go through the fear. So it's just simply getting to a point where you can figure out how to work through the fear in spite of it. For me, I can call it back to a very, very early age. I'm the youngest of 3 sons. My 2 older brothers are 6 years and 9 years older than me. So there was always that gap that when I was born, I felt like, you know, my brothers already had their thing and I might have just been left to my own vices. So I interpreted that and took it and ran in a negative way, because what's the deal with human beings? It's our responsibility to attach meaning to every single circumstance. And unfortunately, the meaning that I attached to everything that I envisioned in my early young life was negative, was really playing a victim. And I didn't even know that that was a thing until a handful of years ago, when I started making the choice and the decision to improve my scenario a little more. Somebody pointed out in this session I was part of and said, you might be a victim, and not specifically to me, but just talking about it in general. And it just hit me. I was like, not only didn't I know that that was a thing, but I didn't realize that that was my thing. So I took that on at a very early age. And the thing, you know, is that when you tell yourself something, you go out into the world consciously or subconsciously and look for proof of it. On paper, I'm saying, no, I want people to like me. But the truth of the matter is, I've already victimized myself and said, nobody likes me. Nobody wants me around. I'm not good enough. I can't do anything. And for 40 years, I got just that back. So I could say, you see, I told you so. It doesn't work.
Wow. That is That's impressive. I love the part of the awareness. Like,
Yeah.
we often hear you don't know what you don't know, right? And we might be operating in a certain way. And then when you hear that phrase or you hear that story, right? Especially now that we're talking about podcasting, like stories are huge and we know stories change belief. And you hear this story of maybe someone that you look up to or, right, a superhero maybe, and they talk about that being a victim, right? And then you connect the dots and you're like, wow. So a whole new world opens for you. And now you're aware that those things can be happening to you.
Yeah.
That's when we can start make the change. And personally, I think that's why podcasting is such an important platform, because all these stories that are being told are changing people's beliefs, right? They are giving them that awareness that is going to help them change and move forward and get better.
Eric, I have a question for you. So you mentioned earlier on your story, right? Like you wanted to create a legacy, for your family and moving on, right? So here's a lot of the people are starting to either create content for their businesses and stuff. Do you think everybody wants to create legacy? And, how can somebody trying to use that legacy thought as fuel to make a positive impact in the world?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't aware of that term or that concept until I got older. So I think it depends a lot on the phase you are in life. So by the time I stumbled on that book and started to realize, like a lot of people get shocked. Like, what do you mean 20 years in creative? It's because I, went through my 20s and my 30s partying, enjoying myself, doing all the typical things you would come to expect. And I got to the point where now I found someone. I pushed that off as long as I could. No, I don't want to get married, and it's my wife doesn't like this one, but it's like you could basically marry anyone as long as you meet that person at the right time in your life, right? Soulmate, all that stuff. Yes, you can believe in that, and I believe it to a degree. But the thing is, when you're ready, that person will show up because you're ready. Right? Just like they always say, the teacher shows up when the student is ready. So it's the same thing. Your wife, your husband will show up when you're ready. So that's what happened. And then when we started to go down that path and we started to build and create a family and a future for ourselves, I was already well into my 40s, right? Yeah. And I think I had my first when I was 40, which was funny because when I was, going through corporate America, I remember a dude that had his first in his 40s. I was like, you're crazy, man. I would never do that. I'm going to have kids before that. And here I am doing exactly what he did. But so then it wasn't until then that I started to understand that there's more than just me. There's more than just me and my wife. There's something that I need to build for them so that they have the things that I didn't have. So they have the security and the wealth that I never had. My parents grew up just financially uneducated and in debt and credit and, bankruptcy. And I learned from their mistakes by saying, at least I'm not going to do that. Yeah. And the thing is, I didn't know how, though. I didn't understand how because we weren't taught that in school. So when I started to go down the path of educating myself, reading books, surrounding myself with people that were teaching me about this stuff, they were the ones talking about legacy wealth and creating wealth for your family. That's generational. That's when I started to say, if these intelligent people above me are talking about this, maybe I need to start paying attention. So then that's when I started to say, okay, this is my goal. This is my fuel, like you said, Luis, and this is the rocket this is the fuel that's going to go into the rocket ship so that I get up every single day and continue to build what I'm building.
Wow, that's awesome. Like a word that comes to mind is awareness, right? Josh, you mentioned it earlier. Eric, you're doing it now. Like, okay, I'm aware now that these people are, speaking to me in this language and I need to wake up and execute, right? For us, people ask us like first, like it's two brothers living together, working together, like almost doing anything together, right? My wife is not jealous, by the way. Like she's like, hey, thank God you have your brother. But for us, they asked us like, how can you guys do this together? You guys been doing it for now 6 years. The first like 3.5, almost 4, were like almost like freelance. Like we had no idea what the heck we were doing. It was horrible, right? And but we learned a ton of lessons. And we always go back to our why, right? And for us, family is our why. Like we are originally from Venezuela. We have our parents there. And the initial motivation when we started this, the Biz Bros thing, right, was we want to bring them with us. Like we want to make sure, because they provided every single opportunity for us. So that's, I guess on our side, that's our legacy. That's what we want to, make sure that they have the life that they deserve and that they want.
Yeah.
So,
and honestly, I think like that legacy part is evolving constantly, right?
Absolutely.
Like right now, yes, we want our parents here, and then once we accomplish that, I mean, you have a kid now, right? And he's gonna want to provide for his kid.
I already do.
I hopefully eventually one day I'll have kids too, right? Maybe my 40s, Eric.
If you're lucky.
I want a legacy for them, right? So I think it is ever something that keeps evolving as we go.
So segue to that, my question is like for any of you too, is we identify that is very related to family on our cases. Do you think that's necessary for other people? Because they're creating businesses that are creating an amazing impact to so many people, right? Like we were at your event a few weeks ago. These amazing tech companies have solutions to like that add so much value, not only for companies, but for individuals. So do you think, wanting to crush that legacy and making sure that they want to go through that is a necessary ingredient in this whole business entrepreneurship publishing game?
I think that it's aside from your why, if you don't necessarily have, because a lot of us do use the family as our strong why, but there are a lot of people who use a mission, like a mission statement. They want to be the champion. They want to be the warrior for something. We had someone on our show yesterday who unfortunately had lost her son. And the thing is, she wants to become a champion, even though that's not her business, but she doesn't realize subconsciously she's building a brand based on that story that's telling people, hey, others have experienced this too. I'm not alone in this. And I also want to make sure that I let others know they're not alone. So come to me and we can have a conversation about this and be open about it so that it's healing, so that it's beneficial for all parties. And because not everyone wants to put themselves out there. Not everyone wants to talk about the scars, so there's lessons learned that people can start to share. Hey, here's what happened to me, whether it's a failure or a traumatic experience. And here's how I went through it. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you, but maybe it will. Maybe there'll be something there that you can pull from it and say, okay, wow, that really helped me. So now you're making a larger impact on your community, the tribe, the people, which we all know eventually becomes partners, friends, and clients.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love what you said, that she subconsciously is building the brand around her message, around the message, and around that story, right? And I think people tend to have a really hard time embracing their own stories. And for example, yesterday we had this lady in the podcast. Her name is Rosita. She was awesome. And her story is crazy, right? Like she went from drug addict at 16 and homeless to now managing 2,000 employees and 41 stores that they make over $1 million each.
It's great.
Yeah,
it's insane. And she was like, I felt that my story wasn't good enough for me to share, right? And I mean, Josh, I can tell because of what you were talking about, you kind of like struggle with that, right? So how did you came to embrace that story? What was that epiphany moment for you where it clicked and you were like, I have to share it no matter what, and I have to empower others to share theirs as well?
Well, there's a few interesting key points here because like you said, your guest yesterday felt that we all at some point in our journeys fall into, nobody cares what I have to say. Who's going to care? Who's going to listen? Do I have a story to share? All of those insecurities always pop up for all of us. The bottom line is that you have to find the way to just put all that aside, because the truth of the matter is twofold. We all, present day, no matter where you think you are in your journey, your story, your message has already begun. It's already there. You don't have to, well, I just have to get a little further. I haven't been at it long enough, or I have to sell a little more. No, there is a story right here and now that needs to be told. Case in point, I spent a good 10 plus years running my own digital marketing agency when I wasn't in this iteration of my life. And like I said, all like my entire life, I attracted a very negative person and relationship, whether it was private, personal, business, or social. And my digital marketing agency was no different. It became very toxic. So when I was awoke, I knew that, okay, step one, I have to rip the Band-Aid off here. And like any toxic relationship, it's not good for me anymore. And I needed to find something else. So I did, but I didn't know what that something else would be. So I took a couple of months, sat with myself, tried figuring it out, created what became the Hidden Entrepreneur brand, and then said, you know what? I've never had a podcast before, but I feel that I would be good at it, that I would like it, I would enjoy it, and it might create some sense of meaning, significance, and opportunity for me. I'm going to do it. And I just did it. So from that beginning moment, my story was already there. I didn't say, well, I'm not going to tell my story until I have 50 or 100 episodes. I said, I'm going to determine what my story is today and start telling it, start crafting it. And it evolves over time. Some of the things that I started telling a few years ago, I don't really tell anymore because it's not, it evolved or it became. So you have to realize that your story is already there. There is a message. It just takes time. And that's through PodMax, what we help you identify, communicate, and practice and get out there so you can share the message that exists right now on podcasts.
I love it. And, I think you included the perfect segue right there for PodMax because, again, we experienced it and we were so excited, literally, after every single person that we talked to, right, that you guys connected us through the event. We were like, this was so much fun.
So awesome.
This was so much awesome. Like
so much awesome.
Yeah,
is
so
that
much. So much.
Sure. Bro, your English is not good looking today. Okay, good. Okay.
And like we started just like embracing that curiosity, right? Is like it builds that is something that creating content has done for us. I feel like feeding that curiosity that when we have people like you guys in here, we're like, look, we want to know everything, right? And we say it sometimes, like what we ask, yes, like we want it to be helpful for the audience, right? We want to help them. But at the same way, we're doing it kind of selfish because we're like, we want to know these things. Like we want to learn all this stuff that you guys are sharing. So with PodMax, it's absolutely amazing because you guys in one day, you guys connected with amazing individuals. We had the chance to learn a bunch of things that we had no idea about with all these amazing people. So I'm curious, how did you guys, decided to start a platform for the platform, right? Like how I referred it before. Because for me, it's amazing. I knew community was a thing. Like when I surround myself with amazing people, right? For example, if morning I went to yoga and I love that space at the beach with like those type of people, it feels great. But I never seeked it, right? It was something that I would let myself just walk into. I wasn't actively seeking for a community. So what made you guys create this type of community for people to seek and be a part of?
Yeah, I'll take this one, Josh. So it wasn't necessarily by design. Things happen somewhat, and this is an overused word, but it happened organically. It happened sort of little by little by little, and it started to snowball into what you guys experienced. So, in being in, real estate and then the creative agency and then podcasting, which, where Josh and I were playing a lot in, we're experimenting, doing stuff like our On Air Brands live show, just like this one, and then other shows, his show and my show, and then trying to juggle the balls to see what we could do with it all. We started to realize there was a power in the network that we had already established, all the people that we already knew, all the thought leaders that we were friends with, and say, hey, why don't you come in the door? It's a virtual experience right now, as you know it, but it was also is also still a live event. So it started out as an event within our offices, and we would spread out through all the conference rooms and all the people. We would negotiate with other people who had businesses there because it's a co-working space and say, hey, Brandon, are you cool if we are you going to be around Friday? And then he would be like, no. Okay, can you give us the keys to your office? Because we're going to turn it into a studio. So that's what we would do. We would have 8 to a dozen different studios, and all these entrepreneurs would flood in, and it was a system. It was tight as a drum. People would get handed their little envelope, and there was their schedule. There's their bios. There's all the people that they know and love and they're fans of. And then they would just be ushered and brought to studios. And then when they came out, there was Josh and I and the team, and we're like, hey, and there's food, and why don't you talk to this one? We knew everyone in the room, so we would say, hey, I know what you need, or you need to meet this person or that person.
Yeah.
And then we started to realize, oh my God, it's not just about podcasting, it's what's happening in the room. It's what's happening amongst all the entrepreneurs that are there for the same reason, but not necessarily in the same business or industry. Yeah. So then that's when we were like, holy smokes, this is powerful. So we kept doing that, and it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Then we got slapped in the face with, what's happening now with the bubonic plague. And then we were like, oh, wait, what are we going to do? We took about a few weeks to figure it out, and we built a virtual version of it, which we probably wouldn't have done. So I'm kind of thanking what happened, although everything else is falling apart. But we were blessed that we're like, whoa, this is something cool and exciting because no one's doing it. We were so ahead of the curve, and still are, to the point where VaynerMedia was like knocking on our door and saying, hey, how do you build a virtual event like this? We love what you're doing. And we would take meetings with them and figure it out. And how can we help each other? And we're still talking and communicating with Vayner. So it's powerful, man. It's powerful what you can do with podcasting. And it's powerful what you could do if you bring people together and build a community.
Yeah, that's awesome. Josh, anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure. The bigger picture of that naturally evolved is, while it is revolving around this one-day event, slowly but surely it evolved to more than that. So when we talk about PodMax, yes, it culminates with this great one-day event. But what we realized early on are we're giving entrepreneurs the chance to really buy into getting yourself immediately booked and matched up on 3 top shows. If you were to do that outside of the event, there's some legwork you have to do on your own. But now we say, hey, buy into the event, and in this day, you will be matched with 3 and you'll record them, and that's that. So we started attracting people that loved that idea, but maybe were a bit green to the experience of guesting. So they're like, hey, I have a great 6 or 7 figure business here, but I'm sort of new to the guesting role. Can you guys help me? So we saw that opportunity early on, and we're like, yes, now we can take everybody who comes through, and we have a significant training and education component to it before, during, and after the one day that helps the entrepreneur identify, communicate, practice, and rehearse, obtain the discipline for communicating the message, and probably most importantly, gaining that confidence through the experience to say, I do have a message here to share. There are people interested. I am capable.
That's so sorry, Fonzie. Like, I want to share a story because the event that we attended with you guys was a private event, and on October 16th, your new event is coming. So everybody listening, watching now, go and check out. We're actually gonna leave all the links right below, so you guys can go register and apply for it. But I remember listening to somebody, and I've been trying to remember the name of this person. But, sometimes we work in one industry, like one channel. For us, it's obviously content, is marketing, is sales, and mindset, all this stuff, right? But then he's like, I encourage you. I think it was Jesse Itzler maybe that he was saying that. And he's like, I encourage you to go to just like a random event. Go to a random conference. Walk in. See what happens, right?
Wow.
And just like sit there and listen to like other perspective, right? So that just like sparked, and it was like, oh my gosh, yes, let's go to listen to like what other people in other industries have to say, because guess what? Then the creativity muscle is going to start working. You're like, wow, they see that problem through a different lens. What if I apply part of that lens to my current problems and with so amazing stuff? So, the private event that we came like to you for, it was technology based, like it was a different thing, right? And we're like, wow, Fonzie, that has nothing to do with content and profit. Like maybe profit on their end, but like for content, like what we do, and we're like, let's just be open to this opportunity. Let's go, let's attend, let's see what happens. Wow. And wow, what an amazing experience it was, because we learned these amazing things from not only the guests, but the people that you bring onto the table to like chat with us, and the keynote speaker, amazing, right? And not only that, but I also saw that on their end, right? On the technology side, the comments that they were telling you guys was like, I had no idea how awesome this whole platform podcasting is. So now I got to go back to my company and be like, we need to get one of these and start producing, because it allows us to get our message out. So I just want to highlight that specific fact that sometimes we're so focus on our own channel that sometimes we forget that there's so many other creative solutions around. And if we just take a peek, experience a day or two, be part of that experience, we can bring so much value back to our own platform and then make this experience different. One example is we like geek out on YouTubers and gamers, right?
Yep.
And the whole team that we have producing content, they're gamers. So they're like constantly providing these awesome solutions. And if you know anything about streaming, gamers are the experts on this thing. So it's like, okay, how can we bring that experience of like the gaming world, the streaming world into the business side of things? How can business take part of it? And then you create this amazing like meetup between both of them, and something amazing happens. So I think your event as a platform, I encourage everyone, and every single one of you that's listening right, go check him out, because you might learn like this. We call them now golden boulders, because they're freaking massive, right? Instead of golden nuggets. And go out and implement right away. So amazing. So I just wanted to highlight that point and what that event meant for me, and just count on us for like every single one moving forward. Saying.
The other day I received a comment on LinkedIn with one of the guys that we got matched up doing the podcast episode. It was Dom. And he's like, hey, he's like, when are you coming to London, And I was like, dude, I'm so ready. Like, I wish I could be there right now, And it creates those relationships, those friendships, besides just the business aspect, which is absolutely amazing. And going off the topic of innovation and originality, I feel a lot of people get stuck with, what I'm doing is not original. Somebody else is already doing it, right? Again, that was me 100%. I'm like, well, I'm trying to create a social media marketing agency, right? This was like 5 years ago, but there's all these other people that already have one, right? But I'm just consuming the content of course, all the people that have a social media marketing agency, because I'm trying to learn from them. So in my eyes, it's like, this is super saturated. I'm not original. I cannot create something. And what I like about my brother is, right, like what he explained is that you can adapt, you can grab things. And being original doesn't mean creating something from scratch. It means grabbing something and adding your own things to it little by little, and it's going to grow. And I feel that's how your process was. And Eric, you said it was organically, right? Like it started a little organic. And while you were telling the story, I'm like, it's amazing how the pieces have been fitting together. And you didn't have you might have a master plan, but you didn't, hold yourself back, because from the one, it wasn't as big as you wanted. You guys started building one step at a time. So I'm curious for people that are listening, that are in that aspect of their business right now, that they're trying to build the right relationships, right? Be part of the right networks. What are some tips that you guys can give them? Because besides obviously going to PodMax, go to PodMax. But how can they get out there and start, innovating in their own space and meeting all these people and building awesome relationships?
So there was a big chunk of time there where I've been like chomping at the bit. I have 3 things I want to say before I answer your tips. So I hope we have enough time. Okay, I'll come back to the tips, and if I lose track of that waypoint on the GPS, get me back. So there's 3 things, right? So the first thing is what happens at PodMax, and it really connects people beyond the event. So people think about it. It's a wonderful content play. It's one day of content marketing, but like Josh said, there's all support around it. Like if you need clarification on your message, we're there for you. If you need the confidence and you need advice on what mic to buy and what headphones to buy, we're there for you. But beyond that, the content play of knowing that if you're a busy entrepreneur and I gotta hustle, I don't know if I have time to build content. Well, if you just dedicate one day, 6 to 8 hours, you're going to create so much content, and then you're going to be able to give it to the biz bros, and they're going to create 2, 3, 4, 5 months of content that you only invested 1 freaking day on. That's amazing in and of itself. No one's doing that crap right now. So, and another thing I wanted to highlight is, are we on Twitch? because if you guys are gamers, man, we should be streaming to Twitch right now. Right?
No, yeah, but it's coming. It's coming.
Okay.
We have
Stream
plans.
card. Yeah. We stream to Twitch, but we don't know what we're doing on there. So
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. People just like they say ridiculous things, and we just shut the comments off.
I'm
But
trying to learn how to play the guitar so I can go on Twitch, and then halfway through the show, commercial break, serenade people, We'll see how that goes.
But another thing I wanted to highlight with what PodMax does, which it wasn't there for me during my podcasting journey. I've been learning a ton, even though we are the thought leaders and the leaders of creating that business. I need it too. I learned so much from the people that come and participate and that we coach. And it's crazy that the business is something that people need, but they don't necessarily understand or know they need it. So for example, when I was doing podcasts as a guest, if you go back to 2-3 years ago when I was on these shows, I was terrible. I was umming and eyeing and you know what I mean? Like all these filler words constant. It was awful. So then I started to craft my message with the help of Josh and with the help of our program. And we started getting more conscious of it and aware of what I was doing. And then I started to get better and better and better and going back and listening. A lot of us don't go back to the shows we recorded on, listen to them, analyze them, figure out how you can be better and better and just keep improving. And eventually it did lead to, and I shared you the link to this show, Luis. It led to me getting on the Bigger Pockets Business Podcast,
Amazing.
which was an ultimate goal of mine forever. But I never would have made it if I didn't guest on shows constantly and get my muscles exercising and to the point where I could perform on that show and show up in the best version that I was because of all the steps that I took to be an awesome guest and to be interesting and add value to a community of 50. They average 50 to 100,000 downloads per one episode. The
Amazing.
community is 1.2 million. So then I knew, oh my God, I got to show up. Am I going to be ready? And my team was like, yeah, you're ready. You've been working your way up to this. So PodMax is great because for those who don't podcast, who don't have a lot of experience, well, here's your testing ground. Here's your opportunity to jump in on shows so that when the Bigger Pockets, when the JDLs, when the big shows ask you to be on, you're ready for the stage. You're going to hit it. You're going to show up. You're going to add value and you're going to communicate in a way that's succinct and clear and is going to inspire the hell out of that audience. And people are going to be like, dude, he crushed it. Do more. And it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's what I wanted to say. PodMax is your stepping stone to get to that level because it worked for me. So here's the other cool thing. And I'll add one more thing here. And I know I'm on my soapbox is that, and I've had a lot of, like you, Fonz, I had a lot of coffee.
Let's go.
Is that when we started to build the content and we realized like, guys like you can come in and really add value and explore and also show your guest, hey, this is what we can do. You didn't just record on our show. We're going to give you a ton of, like you brought the ingredients in. We're going to chop it up. We're going to make Chinese food. We're going to make Italian food. We're going to make Greek food. And then we're just going to give it to you. You can serve your audience, right? So that's what it does for people. And then we started to realize, Josh and I were like, oh my God, there are people out there that don't even realize they need this, that all they have to do is show up this day. And then like they're busy entrepreneurs, they're busy corporate execs. And all they have to do is come in and then we guide them. It's turnkey, basically. It's turnkey for all of those who need to create content but don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So,
sorry for interrupting here, but I remember this one guy. I don't remember his name, but at the end of PodMax, you guys ask everybody like, hey, how was it? Right? Let's go one by one. And I clearly remember this one guy. He had like a banner on his back and he's like, you know what? I tried to dabble into podcasts before. And, I didn't really see the value of it. But now, it was like, after today, it's like, I think I need to revisit some things. And I was like, yes, like, what that's right there is what you just explained. That feeling of, I found something that I know is going to be extremely beneficial, not only for myself, but for my business as well. And for the people that I'm helping that I can impact.
And, time is our most valuable resource, right? So I think what you guys have is this amazing solution that is compressed in like one day. And you're meeting people, like you're creating content, you're getting all these amazing assets that then you can distribute and promote your business and your mission and your story and what we were just talking about, right? And, you know, going back to like why we started the show and why we do it 3 times a week, because the chat was like, let's just do once a week, right? No. Let's speed up the learning process 3 times a week, right? Where were you guys when we freaking started this, you know, a few months ago? Because like that would have been such a massive help, right?
Yes.
Along the way, we've had to figure like things out, and we often get asked like, man, like there's so much friction, right? Like because people see the end product, right? People see episode 300, episode 200, right? And they're like, man, like, that's very uphill, right? So for us, we were like, you know, whatever, we're just going to enjoy the process, whatever it is. Like we do this live. If we make mistakes in the intro, which, you know, I tend to do all the time, you know, I'm working on that, Fonzie.
Hey, today was pretty good.
Okay, good. Today was good. But we were like, okay, let's just speed up the learning process, you know, 3 times a week. And that's why we do it 3 times a week.
So good.
Now with a solution like the one that you guys have is a great like starting point. Like you're already like 4 months ahead of most people. So I encourage every single one of you to go check these guys out. Josh, I don't know if you have anything to add to all this mix. Go ahead.
Usually.
Love it.
Wait, Josh, before you jump in, leave me a room. I want to tell a couple stories of the people that came through. So that we can,
I'll leave you room, sure. Noted.
Leave me room.
More like shoveling Josh to the side. Like,
no, because I know Josh. He's gonna drop some awesome golden boulders.
Yes.
So
I wanted to. I wanted to just talk about the idea of relationships as I relate to it firsthand. So we know how I spent the majority of my life. All I wanted was a relationship in some regard, a connection, a form of collaboration. But when I set out with the idea of subconsciously feeling that, you know, nobody's going to want what I have to offer and I'm going to keep it reserved, that's exactly what I got. So on the surface, the struggle and the frustration is knowing full well what I'm capable of, what I'm keeping inside, but not coming to the table with it. So do you think that for those 4 decades that I attracted into a relationship, again, whether it's personal, social, or business, the right person for me? Of course not. I got exactly who I was and what I was putting out there, yet wondering why I can't make anything work. So now, when I made that decision to be a little bit better and different and improve myself for my children, etc., and started taking that action, I started creating a different persona and coming to the table a little differently. Lo and behold, I find myself at this podcasting event where, like Eric said, I had the opportunity to record episodes of my show. I was matched randomly with someone named Eric Cabral. We recorded an episode, and after the episode, he said, "Hey man, I like what you're about. Why don't you come down to my studio and we'll see what's there? Maybe there's something there for us." So the point is if I didn't already become that version of myself and exercise those qualities and traits that were attractive to the actual person and people and circumstances that I want to relate to, I never would have found myself at that event to begin with. And even if I did, Eric wouldn't have, after that interview, have said, "Hey, I like you. Let's hang out." He would have said, "Hey, thanks for the show. Take care." Like I got my whole life. So you need to become the version of yourself that is capable of attracting the people and circumstances and success that you want in anticipation of it. The only time it happens is when you first step into that version. I desperately wanted to show up weak, angry, and miserable like I was, and desperately hoping somebody would shake me out of it and say, "Yo, you're better than this. I see through it." Doesn't happen. Nobody sees through it until I gave it a go.
True golden boulder. And for this, we need like the gong, the massive gong, the gong moment right there.
Wow. Yeah. And sorry, Eric, I know you want to step in here real quick, but
you can do your thing.
Ready.
Josh, like you just talked to something that I love, right? Because again, one of the my favorite things that publishing has given us has been that internal work. Like, a lot of people are very afraid to look inside and, dig. and let go of all these negative things that are holding them back, or even talk to someone, or even talk to themselves about these negative things that are holding them back, and publishing. I don't know the why yet. I'm trying to find it, but it does that for you. It helps you get rid of that. And one of my favorite quotes that is from one of our coaches, he always says, your business only grows to the extent that you do, right? And when he said that, my mind was like, wow, golden boulder. My mind is absolutely because I was trying to build a business without changing, right? I was trying to be the exact same Luis, but I wanted to build a massive business, and that was not going to happen. Now I look back a few years, right? 3 years, even 2 years, and I look at that Luis, and if those two Luises could have a conversation, it would be incredible because they change. You could see it, you could feel it. So
I think your previous Luis would just walk away, didn't understand it.
Yeah, my previous Luis would be like, bro, no, and then step away and just walk out. So thank you for bringing that up, because I think a lot of people need to be aware, right? And we were talking before about awareness, that moment where they realize, right, where something clicks in their mind, and they need to be aware that they need to look inside and do that work so they can grow, and eventually their business can grow as well.
Good. Yeah. That's amazing.
Eric,
Eric, it's all yours,
my man. Let's go. Take it home.
Yeah. No, I'll speed through it. So to answer your question from earlier, and then I stuck my own idea in there, is you asked for tips that people can, and so the one simple thing that I'm always pressing and I'm always preaching to people when they get onto a podcast or they get onto any platform where you want to talk about your business and you want to talk about what it is. And, we're all big fans of Simon Sinek. It's about the why. So you have to come and step into the room in front of the mic with vulnerability. That's the 100% thing that I think connects people. Because if you show up with open arms and your chest is open and people can see your heart, that will give them permission to do the same. And then all of a sudden, you've established the know, like, and trust within seconds or minutes. And that's what I love about podcasting, because podcasting gives us the opportunity to have that private conversation. Even though millions of people are listening, it feels one-on-one. It feels very, very intimate. Even not just for the people in the room, but for the listeners that have their earbuds on. The earbuds are very intimate. Why do we love music so much? Why do we feel a connection to certain bands and artists? And then when we get to the concert, we look up on stage and we're like, I freaking love you. It's because you spent hours, days, years listening to that person sing in your mind over and over and over. Podcasting does that for you, whether you're a guest or you're a host, because now that person is doing their laundry, they're driving, they're doing whatever it is in life, but you're with them. And you don't even realize it. You don't even know you're speaking in their mind all the time. So I just wanted to highlight that for anyone who's out there that doesn't understand what podcasting is yet. It's the new rock star. We are the new rock stars, and we are the new platform. Forget Live Nation. Forget all these things that get you on stage. That is the solution right now. And if you're not in the game, you're missing out on a huge opportunity to really sing your song. Like where I'm going with all this. So it's got so many legs, so many variables. And the variables that I wanted to really quickly highlight is as guests. So one quick story, a guy named Mike Bonadies came through our very first PodMax event, and he met a business partner. First, it turned into a client. It was a client, and then he started to serve him. And then eventually they loved each other, and they were like, let's partner. Let's do stuff together. So he met a business partner at our first event. Then another dude came through named Fred Moskowitz, and he called me a week later and goes, dude, do you realize I got 50 to 60 leads on my website? That's how many people, because it wasn't, at the time, it was 6 shows that we were recording on live. So he got spread it out. It was crazy. So the leads. Now, on the other side, for the podcasters that come through, recently we had a guest on our shows on Josh's Hidden Entrepreneur Circle for me, and Kieran was guesting, and he met someone through the event that you guys were at, and it was a lawyer. I don't know if you got to talk to this lawyer, but they are now, I don't know, as we speak, playing golf together. They're out on a golf outing, and the guy is thinking about investing in him and maybe becoming a
Yeah.
partner with him. So then also another guy that we brought through was a podcaster, Larry Roberts, who we love. He's become a brand ambassador. We gave him an opportunity to interview one of our keynotes, and they became friends, and now they're working together behind the scenes. So how crazy is that? It goes way beyond the one-day event or the coaching, because now you're forming relationships because the trust is already established, and the trust in PodMax. So you're automatically, right? You're automatically vetted. People come through and go, I met you through PodMax. Of course, I trust you, man. Let's do this. So yeah.
We often say, you know, amateurs focus on the front end, professionals focus on the back end, right? And we relate that with like ads and stuff like that, where, you know, lifetime average value. But I want to bring it to this like specific event, right? If you do not have time to invest like in one day to do this, right? You're amateur, because like that's the immediate thing that you have. Like the stories that you just shared, Eric, is the back end. It's like not only the 60 leads that they got just with a day of the time, like what does those 50 leads mean for this business, right? Probably a lot of money, a lot of impact that they're creating. These meetings and partners, what does that mean for those that people's like families, businesses, future employees?
It's huge.
It's huge. So the back end here is massive, and this is incredible, right? And you guys are condensing this in just one day, and the benefits for the back end of your own business, your relationships, the people that we're connecting. Like one example, if we were able to connect with Chuck Petit, like CEO of Republic, like insane, like a topic that we never thought we were gonna be around, and he's coming to the show on Monday. Thanks to you guys. And it's amazing because now we're gonna be able to like chat about this stuff, and we're probably gonna enlighten a lot of people. They're like, man, like this is a great opportunity. So it's the hourglass effect, right? So it's so many like ways that you guys are impacting many lives. So Josh, like what are some like action points that you wanna maybe share with the audience? Like how can they take it to the next level? Like how can they get a quick win like today, tomorrow? And I have one, but I'll share it after you.
It comes down to a couple of the key phrases we've already touched upon in this time together. It starts with a sense of awareness, right? And willingness. You have to be willing to look inside, take an honest look and assessment inside to really see what's going on versus what you want to go on. For me, it became clear as day. And the small quick wins come as the way I've done it. I knew I had decades of things to overcome. I wasn't going to fall into the trap where by New Year's you say, hey, I'm going to lose 50 pounds next week. And, you know, we all know how that winds up. So in order to alleviate that, what I did and what you can do is I made an honest assessment of what I was doing all these years that weren't serving me, small, medium, and large habits, patterns, and beliefs that were playing against my goal. So I just listed them out and I said, well, I should probably stop doing that every single night. And maybe I should revisit how I approach that most afternoons. And then you see what small win you can tackle. Take one negative habit, pattern, or belief and replace it for a week, for 2 weeks, for a month, whatever. Don't overwhelm yourself. That's where you find the win, one small thing at a time, and celebrate that. And then slowly but surely you add another one. You feel good about yourself and who you are and who you are capable of becoming.
So amazing.
Wow, yes. And I want to add to that a little bit. I actually want to add a book, right? Because I haven't actually talked about a book in this episode.
Fancy's book recommendation.
And I love your example because, like you said, I always share that example of New Year's. People say, yeah, I want to lose so many pounds. 1 week later, done. That goal is out the window, right?
That was me. I'm still rolling down the street. So
By the way, I think this needs to be shared in the podcast. Everyone, my brother here, yesterday, he stepped back into the soccer field.
Let's go.
And he did an awesome job. Yeah. He crushed it. Yeah, he played really good.
I rolled around the other players, which is fine. You know?
So the book is called Tiny Habits and talks exactly about what you are talking about, which is those small steps. and keep getting those consistent wins. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I invite everybody to get that because it's pretty good.
So I teased it. This is my action point for everybody listening right now and watching. Go to podmax.co and apply either to be a host or attend the event. Go connect with these guys immediately. Like, this was such a massive impact, not only in our business, but the relationships that we've been able to build. Go check him out 100%. We're going to go back to that. Now, last questions, and probably my favorite one. Where will you guys be if you did not publish?
I'll buy Josh some time here, and I'll answer. But quick plug that another book recommendation that I recommend highly is the Miracle Morning here.
Yes,
right, which changed my life, changed a lot of people's lives. This dude right here, this brother from another mother, will actually be with us October 16th. So
nice.
Hal Elrod. For those not visibly watching.
Yes. Thank you for that. Where would I be? I'd be miserable in front of the water cooler talking to someone I probably don't like that much about the last episode of Ozark. That's where I'd be. I'd probably be 25 pounds heavier than I am right now.
Wow. So, guys, podcasting also gets you in shape, as you can do.
Lose weight. Put a mic in your face.
Yeah. What about you? Where will you be?
I actually have a keynote presentation titled "How Podcasting Saved My Life and Grew My Business," and it's for those very reasons. Because as we've seen, it was that transition that helped me gain the confidence, gain the clarity, gain the connection, meet Eric, and the rest is ongoing history here. I would, like Eric, I would be extremely miserable. I would be so angry, so depressed. I would be the worst father ever, and I would just continue to spiral down and down and down and kick walls and yell and scream, and it wouldn't be pretty.
Wow, guys. Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Like, today, massive shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all these golden boulders with us and the Content Profit family.
Yeah, man. But he's totally crushed with all the golden boulders all around, man.
Before we say bye, where can people find you? Where can people connect with you? Where can people learn more about you guys and what you guys are building?
Like you said, man, podmax.co is the place to go. Oh, look at that. We should say that more, Josh. I like the rhyme of that.
Is the place to go.
Yeah, go there and check it out.
Some backstory on that one, but
and I also hear a jingle. Podmax.co is the
place to go.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I'll bring the guitar, guys.
There you go. There you go.
With my two chords that I know so far.
Awesome, guys. So
thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Go to podmax.co. Check him out.
Yep.
Don't leave yet. We got the Hispanic goodbye with you guys. But with that being said, thank you so much for tuning into the Content Profit podcast. Go ahead and hit subscribe button today.
That's right. And if you find this episode impactful, which I am sure you did because it was epic, don't forget to share it and leave a 5-star review. Thank you.
See you guys.